The dull hum of the open-plan office was the soundtrack to Adrian Smith's life, a monotonous drone that had slowly replaced the beat of his own heart. At 28, he was the definition of success. A degree in mechanical engineering from a prestigious university, a corner office with a view of a concrete jungle, and a salary that could buy him anything he wanted. Yet, he'd never felt so poor. He was a ghost in his own life, a well-dressed automation moving through a series of prescribed motions. The early midlife crisis wasn't a whisper. It was a scream building in his soul. And one Tuesday morning, he finally listened. He didn't just quit his job. He exercised it. He packed a single bag, bought a one-way ticket to Montego Bay, and told his bewildered parents he was finding himself. The phrase felt cliché, but it was the only truth he had. He needed a world that didn't run on spreadsheets and quarterly reports, a world that was raw and real and untamed. He found it in a small fishing village on the northern coast, a place called Treasure Beach that lived up to its name in spirit, if not in gold. The sand was the color of burnt sugar, the sea 1,000 shades of blue, and the air smelled of salt, fried fish, and sweet hibiscus. It was here, on his third day, that he saw Rohan Bailey. Rohan was a force of nature. He stood on the dock, barefoot and bronzed, his muscles corded from years of hauling nets and fighting the sea. He was laughing, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to make the palm trees sway. His dreadlocks, a cascade of black and brown ropes, were pulled back from a face that was all sharp angles and easy confidence. He moved with a liquid grace that was utterly alien to Adrian's rigid, calculated world. Adrian, with his neat fade and designer sunglasses, felt like a visitor from another planet. Their first conversation was over a plate of steamed escovitch fish at a roadside shack. Adrian, trying to shed his corporate skin, asked Rohan about his work.
Work?
Rohan laughed, his teeth impossibly white against his dark skin.
This ain't work. The sea provide. I just listen. You wake up, you feel the breeze, you watch the birds. The ocean tell you where the fish be hiding. Your job, you sit in a box and look at a box. That sound like prison.
Adrian couldn't argue. For the next week, they fell into an easy rhythm. Adrian would watch Rohan prep his boat, a small, brightly painted skiff named the Serenity. He'd listen to Rohan's stories of the ocean, of marlin that fought like warriors and sunsets that painted the sky on fire. In return, Adrian spoke of his world of steel and glass, a world Rohan found fascinatingly absurd.
You build things to last forever,
Rohan said one afternoon, tracing a line in the sand with a stick.
I build things to catch a meal and then go back to the sea. Different kind of forever, I suppose.
The attraction between them was as palpable as the humid Jamaican air. It was in the way Rohan's eyes would linger on Adrian, a look of genuine curiosity that slowly deepened into something more. It was in the way Adrian found himself staring at the curve of Rohan's shoulders, the way his shorts hung low on his narrow hips, revealing the sharp V-lines of his abdomen. Adrian, who had always been in control, was adrift, and he didn't mind one bit. The evening it happened, the sky was a masterpiece of bruised purple and fiery orange. The sun was a bleeding orb, sinking into the horizon, casting long, dancing shadows on the wet sand. They had walked far down the beach, away from the village. The only sounds, the gentle lapping of the waves and the distant call of a night bird. Rohan stopped and turned to face Adrian. The setting sun caught the edges of his dreadlocks, turning them to gold. He didn't speak. He simply reached out and took Adrian's hand, his own calloused and rough, a stark contrast to Adrian's soft, manicured one. The touch sent a jolt of electricity straight through Adrian's body, waking up parts of him he thought had long gone dormant.
You think too much, Adrian.
Rohan's voice was a low rumble, like the sea before a storm.
Always in your head. Let it go.
He leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't a tentative peck. It was a deep, claiming kiss that tasted of salt, spice, and freedom. Rohan's lips were firm, and he parted them with his tongue. A slow, deliberate exploration that made Adrian's knees weak. Adrian's mind, for the first time in years, went blissfully, utterly blank. There was no analysis, no overthinking. Just the overwhelming sensation of Rohan's mouth on his. The strength in the hand that now cupped the back of his neck. The smell of his skin, clean and masculine. Rohan pulled back just enough to look at him, his dark eyes searching Adrian's face.
You with me, Mon?
Adrian could only nod, his throat too tight to form words. He was more with him than he had been with anyone, including himself. The sky was slipping into twilight, streaks of violet and gold fading into deep blue, the hush of the waves just beyond them. He helped Adrian out of his linen shirt, sliding the fabric from his shoulders with a care that made Adrian's pulse stutter. Rohan's fingertips brushed the lines of his chest like he was learning them by heart, lingering just long enough to make Adrian's breath catch. Adrian felt bare in a way that had nothing to do with how many clothes he had on, and everything to do with the way Rohan was looking at him, like he was the only thing on the beach worth seeing. The cool breeze kissed his skin, but Rohan's hands were warm, steady, sure. Then Rohan tugged his own shirt over his head, and Adrian's throat went dry. Months on the water had carved him lean and strong, muscles moving easily beneath sun-deepened skin. He stepped closer until there was barely a whisper of air between them, the heat of his body wrapping around Adrian like a promise. Rohan's knuckles brushed Adrian's jaw as he tipped his face up. "Breathe," he murmured, a smile tugging at his mouth. "I got you." The kiss started soft, just the press of lips, a question more than a demand. Adrian answered without thinking, his hand sliding up Rohan's back, pulling him closer. The second kiss was deeper, slower, Rohan tasting him like he had all night to figure him out. The world narrowed to the warmth of his mouth and the solid strength of his arms around Adrian's waist. They sank down onto the blanket in a tangle of limbs and quiet laughter. Rohan's body curved protectively around Adrian, shielding him from the chill creeping in off the water. Their chests pressed together, legs tangled, the steady thud of Rohan's heartbeat pumping against Adrian's ribs. "Rohan," Adrian breathed, the name coming out low and rough, like it had been dragged from somewhere deep. "Easy, man," Rohan whispered against his temple, his lips brushing lightly over Adrian's skin. "I'm right here." Kisses trailed along Adrian's jaw, the corner of his mouth, the line of his throat, never rushing, never pushing, just asking. Adrian's fingers curled into the back of Rohan's neck, holding him close as heat and electricity sparked everywhere they touched. For a long moment, time seemed to stretch. The breeze rustled the palms, the waves rolled in and out, and all Adrian could feel was the weight of Rohan's body, the steady rim of his breathing, the way he held on like he had no intention of letting go. Eventually, the intensity softened into something quieter. They shifted until Adrian was on his back and Rohan was half draped over him, one arm banded around his middle, their hands linked over Adrian's chest. Above them, the sky deepened into velvet black, a scatter of stars blinking into view. Rohan propped himself up on one elbow, studying Adrian's face in the dim starlight. "You still in your head?" he asked quietly. Adrian looked up at him, really looked, and felt something inside settle. He slid a hand around the back of Rohan's neck and pulled him down into a soft, lingering kiss that tasted like salt and new beginnings. "No," he whispered against his mouth. "I'm right here." They stayed like that, wrapped around each other on the blanket, listening to the water whisper against the shore. For the first time in a very long time, with sand under his back and Rohan's warmth pressed close, here felt like exactly where he was meant to be.